Let's begin with the first one. The God of the Bible is a God who is relational. He's a relational God. We see this from the very start of the Old Testament. If you turn to the third chapter of Genesis, the first book of the Bible, you discover something fascinating. Immediately after, the God of the Bible has made everything. He's created the universe. He's brought atoms and particles and the laws of physics into existence. He's created planet Earth and the ecosystem and animals and plants and seas and oceans, and culminated in that the pinnacle of creation, human beings, you and I. The God of the Bible, what does he do next? Well, according to the Old Testament, he's found walking and talking in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. He steps into creation and begins relating to his creation. You read a few chapters on in the Old Testament and you discover that God walks and talks with Abraham. He walks and talks with Moses. In fact, the book of Exodus says that God would speak with Moses face to face, like a man speaks with his friend. Further on, God speaks with his people throughout the Old Testament, in fact. And then when human beings disobey God, when a gap opens up in the relationship between human beings and God, and that relationship between human beings and their Creator is fractured and damaged, well, the rest of Scripture and the rest of the Bible is a story of the relational God searching humankind out, pursuing us, rescuing us, wanting to restore us into relationship with him. And the whole end of that, the whole purpose of that is set out in the very last book of the Bible. And the penultimate chapter of the Bible, in the book of Revelation, chapter 21, verse 3, sets out this incredible vision of what heaven will be like. Heaven, according to the Bible, is not a place where human beings sit on clouds playing harps with the angels for eternity, but is a place where, once again, there is relationship with God. And we read, the dwelling of God will be with men, with mankind, and he will live with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. God is primarily not interested in us merely believing in him or keeping his commandments, important as those are. But the biblical cry on page after page is that we might be in a relationship with him. And that's what it means to be a Christian, to be a follower of Jesus, somebody who is in a relationship with God and can, as Jesus taught, call God Father. Well, that's the Bible, the God who is relational. What about the Qur'an? What does the Qur'an have to say on this topic when it comes to the question of God? Well, really, the Qur'an does not describe Allah, does not describe God in relational terms. You can read the 114 chapters of the Qur'an, and this is pretty clear, that the Qur'an really describes a God who is distant and, to some extent, remote. Transcendent is the theological term. Nowhere in the 114 chapters of the Qur'an does the Qur'an ever invite its readers to enter into a relationship with God. That invitation is not there. Furthermore, the Qur'an borrows and retells many biblical stories that turn up on the pages of the Qur'an. And one of those stories is the story of Adam and Eve in the garden. The Qur'an retells that story 7 separate times there in the text. And when it retells the story, there are some similarities, but there are also some differences, some changes that are made in the Qur'an to the biblical story. And one of the noticeable changes is that beautiful passage in the Old Testament that describes God walking and talking with Adam and Eve is removed. God does not walk and talk in the garden with Adam and Eve. Interestingly, when you read some of the quite beautiful in the Arabic, the descriptions of paradise, of heaven there in the Qur'an talks about things like rivers of wine and beautiful fruit trees and crystal clear fountains and other kind of things that are there in its description of paradise. But one thing is missing. There is nothing like that verse I read you from the book of Revelation in the Bible. God is not present in the descriptions of paradise there in the Qur'an. What is waiting the faithful Muslim in heaven is not walking and talking with God. He is not that kind of relational God. And of course, the Qur'an flat out denies on page after page after page that God took on flesh and stepped into history in the person of Jesus Christ. The God of the Qur'an is missing, as it were, from the beginning of history, missing from the end of history, and missing from the middle of history. The only relationship that the Qur'an talks about in terms of human beings and God is one not of father or friend. That language is never used in the Qur'an. The only language that's used is that of master and servant. God is the master, we are the servants. Our job is simply to obey, not to have any deep intimacy of relationship. Now, don't take my word for this. I'm a Christian scholar of Islam. I'm British, and the British are known for being arrogant and intolerant. I saw who laughed. I saw who laughed loudly down here. We can talk afterwards. Let me share with you some words from a leading Muslim scholar writing today, Shabir Akhtar, actually based for a while here in Chicago, now teaches at Oxford University, I think the last time I touched base with him. And in a book that Shabir wrote a few years ago, he makes exactly the same point that I've just made to you, but from the Muslim perspective, writing as a Muslim scholar. And I think his words are very helpful. He says, Muslims do not see God as their father. Men are servants of a just master, but cannot, in Orthodox Islam, typically attain any greater degree of intimacy with their Creator. Fascinating and honest words. They're just servants, in other words. In contrast, it's interesting that Jesus Christ specifically said to his followers, I no longer call you servants, but I call you friends.